Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show.
Hey, Michael.
Morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Surviving. Doing good. Can't complain. So, Stephen, where are you at?
So I'm just north of Atlanta. It is nice and wet here.
You're in Atlanta.
How
Cool.
about you?
I'm down here in South Florida,
Hmm.
just
Okay.
south of Boca Raton in a city called Lighthouse Point.
Yeah, I used to live up in Palm City for a while.
Okay, there you go. Good stuff.
Yeah, familiar with the area for sure. It's a nice place.
Yeah, it's getting we're kind of in our dangerous time of the year, I guess I'll use that phrase. Hurricane season, yeah.
Are you one of those people that ride out the storms?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have my house is fully equipped with impact resistant windows
Oh,
and doors.
good.
So I've been through a few of them here with those impact resistance windows and doors, and it has been a problem. Well, the only problem we have is that you lose power, and the
Yep.
losing power is the big inconvenience, right? Because then you're out of power I was out of power for a week when Irma hit, and so it was a major inconvenience. But you know, that's the only issue with this area is threat of hurricanes, although I guess with the waters getting warmer throughout the world, I guess, these hurricane paths are not solely restricted to coming up the east coast of Florida where the Gulf Stream runs, because that's very warm. Now the Gulf of Mexico has probably gotten a lot warmer over the last 20, 30 years. It seems like the hurricanes seem to be going in that direction. And that's why you got a lot of these hurricanes hitting, up the Gulf Coast states and stuff like that. But anyway, August and September are the high months. Those are the ones that have the highest incidence of hurricanes. So we'll just have to cross our fingers and hope for the best.
I'll definitely be
You're a
pulling
financial
for you.
planner, right? You're a wealth manager.
So I'm registered, but I don't manage wealth. I am a value advisor. I like to quarterback the process.
So did you get the CBGA?
I've got CEPA.
Oh, I'm a CPA too, but there is another designation called the Certified Value Growth Advisor, CBGA.
No, I don't have that.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, it's all about value. It's all about value and how value is created. It's it goes more into the whole valuation process, and not that you become a valuation.
I was about to say, I don't think I would want to become a evaluator or to do those certified valuations.
No, you're not. But it talks about, the essence of how companies create sustained value. It's a program I went through. It's really good. It's pretty intense.
Okay.
But anyway, and so do you have any, other than being a CEPA, any other designations or any other skill sets?
CRPS, and I've had my life and health license for over a decade. I actually started in a small family-run health insurance agency.
Okay, cool.
And I worked with my COO to build that up to become the #1 Florida Blue general agency in the state in about 3 to 4 years. So I've kind of already done the growth and scaling thing without even knowing, like any of these tools or any of this knowledge, just because we transformed ourselves using a very data-driven analytical approach.
Awesome.
We really, so I'm used to doing stuff like this, which is one of the reasons why I was really looking for this, because I like to think of that decade as kind of like the highlight, and that was right over in Stewart, was where we were based.
Stewart, Florida.
That's right.
All right, cool.
So
that's where the
and
Gulf
that's, like I
Stream,
said, I've just been trying to kind of, I guess, recreate those golden years. I want to work with business owners. I want to collaborate. I want to, really build everything up and make them. I like the way that EPI says transform the business from successful to significant. That's really what it felt like when I was at Fiorella Insurance Agency, and it was absolutely thrilling. And I want to do it again, and I want to do it again, and I want to do it again.
Gotcha. Good for you. Yeah, good. Yeah, so I have a CPA background. I was in public accounting for over 40 years as a tax.
Cool.
But I got into exit planning, about 20 years ago, I would say, because most of my business owner clients were baby boomers like myself, and one of them in particular reached out to me and said, after he'd been to a number of advisors, he came to me and said, Mike, you got to help me try to figure out how I'm getting out of my company. I mean, I have a chosen successor, or I've chosen this person, I've mentored this person, but I don't know how to get myself out of this business and get the money I need. And so I said, okay, well, I think I could try. I'll help you. I'll try to do it, because that's, that was kind of I always looked at myself as more of a problem solver for my clients than just their accountant. So, I took it on, and I did, using my tax knowledge, I did figure out a way for him to get out of his company, transfer to his successor, all while minimizing. I would say the tax ramifications were almost zero, and he got all his money out. And so that kind of started me. I said to myself, hey, he's not alone. I mean, there's a lot of business owners like him who, really one of their issues, probably maybe not today as it was back then, but they really don't know who to go to. where do I go to figure this out? There wasn't any, the exit planning field was almost non-existent 20 years ago.
Right.
But now it's blown up, and I think more and more people are getting educated on it. So more and more, you read about it more. I think owners are more aware of it. I think the EPI survey that just came out. Did you get the 2023 survey?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
It's shown a
highlighted-
marked improvement in knowledge and action, which is great to see. Fantastic.
Right. That's because of, everyone's now learning about it, jumping in and having these conversations. So people are getting more up to speed on it. Good morning, Teresa. How are you?
Morning, Teresa.
Hello, Stephen. Hello, Michael.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah,
I'm
good
doing well.
I could, but I'm not going to.
Are we supposed to say we're outstanding?
Yeah. I just thought,
Where are you located, Teresa?
I live in Lake Nona, like right outside the Orlando airport,
Oh, cool. Okay.
a little suburb.
Another Floridian. I'm just north of you in
One second.
Atlanta.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So just a few hours away. I was just talking to Michael about how I used to live over on the East Coast near Palm City and Stewart.
Oh, yeah. It's so beautiful there.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I loved it there. I don't know what came over me to move up to Georgia.
The heat.
Oh gosh.
Brutal.
It's the winters are great, but the summers are worse than Florida. I much prefer Florida summers. Hey Tim.
Hey, how you doing, Steven? Oops, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
Sure.
sir.
How you doing?
All right.
Doing
Good.
well.
How you doing?
I think George's still on vacation. I thought he was going on vacation this week.
Yeah, he is on vacation.
He is on
vacation. So I
Morning,
think that means Eric's
Morning,
running
Eric.
the meeting, right?
It gets dumped in my lap. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
Yeah,
That's right.
You're the
You're
fact
next man up.
today.
Nice. Well, our topic for today is going to be, what flavor of ice cream do you like?
So there's this Ben and Jerry's Americone Dream that is absolutely phenomenal.
Fantastic. See?
I'll
Ice
jump
cream
right
gets
in.
it
I don't
going.
mind. Ice cream's great.
Yeah. Yeah. What sort of interesting, I had an interesting problem come up at the end of last week. My wife and I took a 4-day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4-day weekend to just kind of goof around. But on Thursday night, I get a call from a client saying, "Hey, we had a little incident. Our EOS implementer came into our business and ran a little seminar on X on customer service, and the customer service team was together, and part of the exercise is to share what's on your mind, and one of the people started sharing, "Hey, I don't always feel like I'm respected in this team," and the team jumped on her and started attacking her. And so I get a
Which
call.
only showed the proof.
Yeah,
right
right. The proof in the pudding, right? And so I get a call Thursday. This happened like a week before that. The guy who's my contact in the team comes back and says, "Hey, this happened. What should we do here?" And that's what I got 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon
Right before your 4-day
a
weekend.
4-day weekend that I'm going to take off. So we ended up, I ended up calling Mike Garrison, who he and I are sharing this client right now, and said, "Hey, here's what happened." I told him we're going to set up a meeting tomorrow. Mike's like, "Great, I'll join you." And we ended up having a call Friday afternoon with them for an hour, walking through this problem with the management team. And as you can imagine, there was a management team component of this that we needed to talk about. about, where's the leadership and alignment on the management team, and then talking about the two key individuals in this, but there are more than two, but the two key individuals, and talking about where we were and some interesting lessons that came out of it. But just as an example, what's something that's come up recently that's really, and I'd be happy to, chat about that a little bit more, but what's something that's come up on, in your practice or in your, interactions with clients or COIs that surprised you, or just, like something big that isn't the norm?
Trying to rack my brain and figure.
Yeah, that's something I gotta think about.
Well, I think Tim already knows this. We're in a group together, right, Tim? And I've been working with
Yes.
this company for over a year, and they're still they're still struggling with what their exit option is going to be. They have a couple of things on the table, but they seem to be leaning toward ESOP.
Yep.
And they like it for a lot of reasons, right? They like the fact that their company culture and their company itself, right, will stay the same. No one will lose their job. No one's coming in and changing everything, and they're also sharing with their key people the results of what they built together. They like that, and they can keep working and all that good stuff. But they're still on the fence a little bit, so I'm trying to get them this to make a call, but it's gonna happen soon, because if they don't do anything soon, then they won't be able to implement it by the end of the year.
And what do you think, Mike, what do you think is keeping them from making the call? They're afraid to commit to one path and let the others go, or is it more just they don't understand enough? What's the hesitation?
Well, if you've gone through these ESOP structures, right, they're very complicated. I'll use that phrase, right? They're not simple.
Yep.
There's all kinds of requirements, regulations, rules, and up until recently, the DOL has been very aggressive, and there's been a lot of lawsuits against ESOPs. But then I just found out, and I sent them a clip of this. There's a couple of bills that have been introduced, bipartisan bills, that basically are helping ESOP, business owners adopt ESOPs and protecting them from liability by indicating that if you do these certain things, then you're deemed to be acting in a fiduciary responsible way. So it kind of minimizes their exposure to risk, which I think is going to help push people toward these things, right? And it's the support is all over the board. You have Bernie Sanders in on it. You have this guy Cassidy, and I mean, it's across the board. Everyone is for it, but I think they're a little overwhelmed when they start hearing about every year you need an evaluation, and you got to file another tax return, and it gets for most owners it's like, whoa, this is too much, but I think they're going to be close to making a decision there.
Good. Larry, we were just talking. I shared.
Hey, Larry.
I shared a problem that came up right before a 4-day weekend that I just finished with my wife having some vacation, and I had to deal with a customer issue during that. And Mike and I just asked the question of the group: what's come up that surprised you, or something that's come up that just taking you off the beaten path, if you will. And Mike was sharing about a client trying to make a decision about an ESOP. Anything?
So I was going to ask you this question, Eric, in your situation.
Yeah.
At what point in your situation, I know you had a conversation with it, at what point in your situation, in your client engagement, do you bring in an outside expert?
Oh, all the time. So what I said to them, what happened was the partner who called me said, Eric, the president is, our EOS implementer gave him a bunch of names of people to call to go solve this. I wanted you to know about this, and I thought you might have something to say about this. And I said, absolutely. If it's a straightforward problem, we might be able to solve it in-house, so to speak, right? If there are some extraneous things, if they need a leadership coach, that's not, I mean, we coach people in our practice as part of what we do, but we're not coaches, right? That's not what we're doing as our full-time thing. So if they needed somebody to come in and actually take them through a leadership program, for instance, a specific program, that is not something we would do internally. If they just need some, if they just need some realignment from a leadership team standpoint, and to make sure that they have core values. Are they articulating their core values well? Are they communicating their leadership, and are they executing leadership well? We can help them with that. If it's really about teaching them how to be leaders and then taking supervisors who are going to get promoted and having a program for them, that's not what we do. And so what I said to the guy who called me, and what I said to the whole team when we were together is, because we're acting like a general contractor and we're actually managing the whole problem, we need, even if it's a side issue that isn't directly related to what we're working on, we need to understand that it's going on so that we can coordinate the activity with the other things that we're doing, right? So there's no situation where something material should come up in the business that we shouldn't hear about it. And then we will talk about, we're not afraid to say that's not in our lane. We'll, you can bring in somebody you like, or we can bring in somebody, however you want to do that. But we need to be able to address that issue. And so we would absolutely, we know leadership people who can do things. This business happens to be in the greater Milwaukee area where I am. I know plenty of people, but most of the people I know anyway, including people on this call, could do what they do anywhere, right? And so we would bring in somebody to teach leadership. Larry's a great example, or somebody else, and we would help them with that issue, right? Did that answer your question, Mike?
Yes.
I think it speaks, Mike and Eric, to the diversity of our practices in the Growth Drive community. It's so
Yeah.
diverse. It's you've seen one. It's not all the same.
Yeah.
Steve, what are you looking to do in terms of building your practice?
So, like, I have a history in insurance, so I'm very aware of like mitigating risk. And as I've heard, that's like, one of the very initial steps in, any business owner that's just starting this journey. We're going to make sure that there are redundancies in place. We're going to make sure that replacements are funded, that buy sells are funded, that the business that they have built and succeeded thus far is secure first, right? That's something that I could even do myself. That's where my experience lies. That's not what I want to do long term. I want to, help them with the entire growth process. I want to manage that process and quarterback that process. But with that as my baseline, it, gives me an excellent conversation starter, because almost everyone knows what buy sell funding and key person insurance and all of that stuff, entails. A lot of them are not really pursuing it or, going into it, but that's, my job to show them how vital it is, because they have spent, 2, 3, 4 years getting their business up and running. It for them just to, come down with something that takes them out of the picture for 6 months, and then their business collapses around them because they, can't make their lease payments or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be disastrous. It feels like you've wasted 4 years of your life at that point, where you could have had something, set up to guarantee that. And anyone that's looking, at transferable value, those are very key things that need to be in place, especially not just for the owner, but for those people that the business hinges on. Because if anything can quickly take out that business, that's not sellable. That's a deal killer.
Yes.
So getting that in place first, at least for me right now, that's my way in, because that's, where my experience lies. After that, I can say, so, hey, we've got, your buy sell funded, your key people are secure, your business is not going to go out of business anytime soon. Did you know that I just increased the value of your business? If you wanted to sell tomorrow, it would be worth more now than it was 6 months ago. And then that kind of starts the conversation. Well, what do you mean? This is, my income. Well, transition from viewing it as an income source with overhead to an actual asset that grows with you. Start separating yourself from the business, develop your executive team, create this foundation that can transition to, another owner, and you can transition to another chapter when you choose to on your terms. And that's kind of where I'm growing into from the foundation that I've created. And honestly, like if I can get away from the insurance piece altogether, that would be ideal. I don't think that that's going to happen quickly. It's definitely going to be a process. But honestly, I say that I can't wait to get started.
But yeah, that's your entree in, though.
Yes,
So I
that's
have
my
a
entry into the
question
conversation.
for the group, but I don't want to ask it until Mike, who raised the question before I got on about what you're faced with?
That was my question, Larry. It was
wanted-
really just a conversation
Right.
starter to just say, hey, what's gone on that's interesting? So go throw your question in. That's great.
So this is something I wanted to throw out to the group today, and it really fits a little bit of what Mike, Eric, and Stephen, you were talking about, is where is the mindset of our prospect that's a strong prospect, that's very interested in moving something forward. So when I evaluate two that became clients recently in June and July,
Mhm.
and two that are strong candidates, what I wanted is not, and what I see is not where they're at. But yet they want to hire me. Two did already, and two possibly. And I'm trying to go with the theory of the path of least resistance on what will begin an engagement, even though I see something better or different for them,
My
and
God.
say, you know what? Until I've earned the right, the credibility to say, you definitely need this. I rather sometimes not fight it and walk away. I rather have them become a client in some capacity and begin to build that value and trust, then to take them in different directions. Because all four of these are not growth drive right away, growth drive clients in the sense of tools and methodology.
Yeah, Larry, I can jump in on that.
Yeah.
Here's what I have used as an entree. Like I know a client needs to do value building and they need to start planning for their exit. But when I talk to them about it, they say, "Well, I'm not ready to exit now. It's 10 years away. I'm not ready yet." And I said, "Okay, all right." I kind of talked to them about, well, this thing takes time. It's not something you do 18 months out. It's a 3 to 5 year process. And the sooner you start, the better. And you want to be exit ready at any point in time. You never know when that phone call is going to come in, and I go through all that and they say, yeah, I know, but we're not. And so, then you get a lot of pushback. So I say this to them: look, okay, I know you're building your business today and you're building it and it looks like you're doing a good job. And usually most of the times they're sole owners, right? They're the only owner, excuse me, solely owned businesses. And I say to them, well, have you ever thought about what would happen if you can't go to work tomorrow? If you can't show up tomorrow, if you get, God forbid, you get injured, killed, disabled. Have you ever thought about that? And do you have a plan for that? And so I kind of get them into this business continuity mindset. Let's talk about contingency planning. If you can't go to work tomorrow, what is your plan for your family? Do you have one? Who's going to take care of them? What about your business? Is it going to survive? What would you like to happen to your business? Have you thought about it? And I've gotten people to say, okay, yeah, I think I definitely need to do that now, because it's the here and now. And then I get them I walk them through a business continuity process, and I give them a written plan that basically articulates what they would like to happen if they can't show up tomorrow, and who's gonna run the business, what's gonna happen to the business, all that stuff. And it's a good way of I've used it before, and it's a good way of starting to build trust and to get them to start looking to you. And then once that project is done, then you could transition into, okay, look, let's now talk about your eventual exit now.
So Michael, one of those things that you talked about, I'm not ready to exit. There was a thought that I actually had before we jumped on to this call this morning, in that, you use the word exit, but it's not for people who are ready to exit. Just like you don't plan for retirement when you're ready to retire. You don't put your succession plan in place when you're ready to pass the buck. You do it before, always before, and sometimes significantly before. You should be starting retirement planning, 18 years old, if not earlier. And you're not going to retire until 65. You don't start your retirement planning when you're ready to do so.
I'm pretty sure in the
retirement
NFL,
planning.
I'm pretty sure in the NFL they're not planning for the Super Bowl like after the 16th game.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. All of these plans, they're all named in the same fashion. You're not planning for something that is happening. You're planning to prepare for something. So exit planning is the exact same way. And I just think that the word exit is scaring these business owners because they're afraid of it. I don't think, especially a lot of them that are, just starting the business, of course they're not ready to exit. They're just starting this. They're having the times of their life. It's, highs, it's lows, it's going all over the place. They don't want to quit yet. But again, they don't want to retire yet either, but I guarantee you that they are putting money away for it. It's the exact same thing. There was actually a story too. This morning before I hopped onto this call, I was visiting a B&I chapter locally, and the 10-minute presentation, I noticed something very interesting. It was for someone who owned a flooring business, and he had developed this business starting in 1998. And then in 2007, for Mother's Day, he went home to Nicaragua to visit his mother, and they had a car accident together. He lost his mother, and he became, unable to continue work. He had to relaunch his business in 2011. That was 4 years later. Notice he didn't talk about what happened to his previous business. He called it a rebranding, but I can tell you what happened. He didn't have continuity in place. I bet you anything that business went bankrupt because he couldn't continue it.
Right.
He was dealing with the death of his mother, a very tragic, accident. He was dealing with his own issues. There was no way he could continue. These aren't things that we expect. You have to plan for them in advance. And I could only imagine where he would be if that very first company had just simply continued. Like, these are the things that we help
to your
people
point,
for.
Stephen, these are pathways in. We've gone over two of them, right? Business continuity, value building. Teresa.
I have another one. I just redid my website, and I'm using the angle because I started my career as a nurse and then obviously grew into products and services and technology and then into business. So I just redid beadvised.io to say triage your business. And obviously in the area that I'm living in like Nona, so to speak, there is a lot of startups and there's a lot of innovation. So I'm using kind of the angle that we're talking about on this call is being prepared and being ready, even though they might not want to get into exit planning. It's in clinical, we say discharge upon admission. So it's like exit planning upon startup and adding that into their business continuity and adding that into their business plan. The approach and the angle that I take, similar to what you were speaking about earlier, is on the I was on the insurance side for a long time in health benefits and wellness benefits. So I'm kind of using that angle and, assessing and checking the pulse of your business. But you can look at their and HR, especially their benefit packages, their succession planning and all of that, which then ties back to the valuation. So I think that's a third angle. If you think about it, business continuity is always that HR manager, the benefits, the insurance side of it, even not just key man, but their wellness programs, their employee initiatives and things like that. So I'm trying that angle as I kind of rebranded and relaunched just recently. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I like that a lot, actually. I like the comparison from your previous experience factoring into the verbiage that you're using when you're talking to these clients.
It's relatable for everybody has medical benefits, we hope, that we're talking to for exit strategy for their employees. And I think that really also buys the buy-in on respect. I've seen that if the HR manager knows what's going on in the leadership team or in these workshops, they also talk to the management group, and they call it the shadow of the leader. So the management team is already kind of prepped for any type of facilitation group or outside consultant, so that the HR manager kind of is like always going to be on call, especially for those wonderful facilitators who have to deal with that on a Friday during vacation. So sorry to hear that.
I also like, Teresa, that it takes the jargon out of it, right? Too many times in consulting, we go to the jargon that we're all reading in the books or that's out there. And when you use a different industry like nursing to support it, you now take all the business jargon out of it, and they can see that it's based in a reality, not just a bunch of jargon speak, right? And so I like that a lot. I'll say I go at this a little differently. I'm not going in to do exit planning. I'm not really going in to do a specific thing. I work hard at walking into the room without an opinion about what they need. And I'm looking for them to tell me what their hot spots are. So, Teresa, I don't have the medical background that you do, but my dad was a doc and my mom was a nurse. And so I grew up over the dinner table. Like there isn't something that hasn't, you could talk about the grossest thing during dinner because I've heard it all, right? And so, I learned this from my dad, and we would watch MASH together and Diagnosis, and just talk about things and learning that. And what I try to do when I walk into a client or a prospect is ask them about what's really burning for them. Find out the second we walk in with the short list of things we want to sell them, we've biased our opinion about what we, and again, this is not a commentary on anybody's thing. I'm just telling you how I look at it. If I walk in and if I'm thinking I got to sell them some of this, then I'm going to be looking for this. If I walk in saying I want to hear what's on their mind, I'm listening for what they say is important to them. I can translate between what's important to them and how I might solve it. That's my job. I want to hear what's hot and what they're talking about that's getting them. And I have yet to find a situation where I walk in and go, there are plenty of situations where we're not the right person to solve it for them. Right? But I have yet to walk into one where there isn't somebody I know, Larry or Steve or Teresa or Mike or Tim or somebody else, who I can say, I know who can help you solve that problem, right?
So if you think about triage, that's exactly what you're
doing. It is triage.
It's triage, right? So that's kind of where they're going to tell you their pain points, right? They're going to tell you the burn or their symptoms. Do they have chest pain, whatever it is? So I love what you're saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. There's two aspects of that are really important, though. One is you have to listen to the symptoms, and you have to start putting the symptoms together. But and in that you have to remember that they can only describe the symptoms. They don't know what their disease is or what their, they'll say to you, my leg really hurts. They don't know if it's broken, sprained, they don't know, right? And so our job is to listen to those symptoms and start asking really good questions about like, did it hurt yesterday? Like, did you do something today that would have made it hurt? Like I remember listening to my dad do this on the phone all the time. Right. And you start figuring out, oh, you went to Africa last month. Okay, well, that changes everything. Now you might have a really unusual disease from Africa, not just something that you caught from your neighbor's kids, right? Right. So you got to be able to ask really good questions and drill in a little bit.
Well, I go back to George Sandman's growth conversation.
Yeah.
Script. I use that quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But the second part of this that's really important is we're all really in a hurry to get to surgery. We're surgeons, and we've all got specialty, and we want to get in the surgical suite and do our thing. But if we don't spend the time to really diagnose well, people die, right? People die because of bad triage, because you take the guy that you know you can help because that's your specialty, instead of taking the guy who's bleeding out, right? And so we got to spend the time at triage to figure out what are the important things. The client thinks they need to fix X. They'll tell you, we need to fix X right now because, you know, Susie keeps coming into my office and complaining about it, and I want to get it fixed right now so Susie's complaints go away. But Susie's problem is not the real problem, right? And so we go fix the wrong thing and we put a Band-Aid on something that isn't the right thing for us to fix or the right sequence to fix it in.
Yeah,
And
that's where I'm at, Eric. That's a good point, Eric, because that's where these two became clients and two, I think, will become clients. And none of it led in this type of conversation to be using growth drive tools at this time. It's all
okay.
It's all about other things. So,
right.
What are you thinking?
But
I'm sorry, Eric. You didn't.
But no, this is great. When we do that well, guys, several things happen. One, we fix the real problem instead of just putting, you know, baling wire and duct tape on things, right? Two, we build credibility with them and trust because now we show them that we care enough to dig deeper and actually fix problems, not just take the easy stuff, right? The low-hanging fruit, right? And I'm not saying we don't do some low-hanging fruit and stuff in there and all that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply saying when we take the time to really ask, hey, Tim, you know, I know you're saying this is really, and you're really big on this thing over here. Tell me about this over here a little bit. And we find out that, and we show them that there's something else going on that they didn't even realize. We show our expertise and we show them we care enough about them to actually fix the problem.
Well,
right?
now you're listening.
So Eric,
Yes. Yeah.
I got a question for you, because I like this approach, and that's where I ultimately want to get.
Yeah.
Kind of as I was talking before, I'm leaning back on the experience because that's where I have the expertise. I
We all do
haven't
that.
led
Yep.
a value client engagement yet. So what kinds of, I guess, what would I even say to start these conversations or to make people want to have conversations with me when I have no experience in triage, so to speak? Like, what would be a good way for a beginner to get started in being able to ask these questions and dive in and really be able to see?
Steven, it's a great, and do you prefer Steve or Steven?
Either way is good. I'm
Okay,
honestly,
fine.
I'm chill. It's fine.
Yeah, I got it.
I went
So
back
I'm
and
going to stay
forth
with
with you,
Steven.
though, so I did
I'm going to
both.
stay with Steven because that's what you got on your thing, and you
Sure.
have me change if you want. So Steven, I think the answer to that is you're taking the right path. I did the same thing when I started Oak Hill 16 years ago. I hung my shingle out as fractional CFO because I had done lots and lots of CFO work. I have a CPA certificate. I have, you know, like Mike, I'm a finance guy as my core, right? That was my core thing. I was always doing the same things I'm doing now, right? But nobody would buy from me growth and exit planning 16 years ago because all I'd ever done is been a CFO of places, and they're like, you know, what does he know about that, right?
Right.
So I hung out that shingle saying I do fractional CFO work, and then I pivoted my company pretty quickly to fractional CFO plus sales, marketing, and operations, right? Because I had other people on the team, and then that allowed us to have all those conversations, right? but you can start the conversation with that, right? So
Okay.
I'd get a call from a banker and they'd say, hey, this guy doesn't have great financials. Can you go and help him? Of course I can, right? But I'd sit down with them and I'd say, okay, Teresa introduced me to you, Stephen, because you have bad financials. That's what she said. Tell me what's going on, right? And the answer is, don't go in with a bunch of things to say. Go in with a bunch of questions to ask, right? So start peeling the onion by just asking questions. Okay, why aren't your financials very good? Well, I had to fire my controller, and my business partner took over, and he took a bookkeeping class for 3 weeks, right? So he can do it. Oh, okay. Now I'm starting to see I'm starting to understand the picture,
right?
right? And you just start asking questions until you understand. But we're all comfortable asking questions in the area that we really understand. Tim actually does this well, I think. When you spoke down in Florida, Tim, you gotta get comfortable asking questions in an area where you don't understand. And sometimes those are the best questions. Hey, look, Stephen, we talked about your financials, but you kept saying something about marketing. I don't know a lot about marketing. Can you tell me something about that? What's going on there? Right? Like it seems like that's bothering you. You keep referring to that. And I'll just ask questions. I don't know a lot about that area, but that's a tool for me. If I don't know a lot about it, I can ask them to explain it to me more and more, because they don't expect that I know what that is, because I've said that's not my area of expertise, right? And the more I ask in that area that I don't know about, the more it gets me to understand what's going on, and I can ask it frees me up to ask some questions that they don't expect that I know. And so I just keep drilling down there until I find something that well, it all started with my marketing person saying I had to get rid of the website and only go to the X, right, or whatever, right? Some crazy statement, and you're like, that doesn't sound right, right? Okay, does it, and then that opens the door for you to say, I know somebody. You got to do the homework and start building the relationships with those people in those areas, and know somebody who can help you in those areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say, okay, well, would it make some sense for us to bring in somebody to look at that area? Would that make you more comfortable, right? In Teresa's medical thing, would you like to meet the doctor?
And Eric,
Right.
to your point, there is the resource I just put in the chat, and I see, Stephen, you acknowledged it. This is the growth drive, growth conversation that Michael, you were talking about. It's a great resource. Stephen, are you engaged in the C3D coursework?
I am not at this time.
This comes right from it, but you have access to Circle.
Oh, there it is.
Thanks, Tim. And this is just a great guide. And from there, you customize it to who you are, to Eric's point, and asking questions that might not be your core, yet will get you a conversation that'll allow you, in Teresa's word, triage where you need to go. It's really excellent.
So to summarize, it sounds like you go in with the specialty. That's the attractor that starts the conversation.
It's why you get introduced.
Right. And then when you're in the conversation, yeah, that's part of it, but that's not your list. You're just asking questions, you're exploring, you're seeking to understand, and that might be something that gets addressed, but there might be other things that get addressed, and you're not ignoring those, and that's the point.
And I'm sure everybody else on this conversation can talk to it too, but sometimes I get the response out of the client or the prospect that says, yeah, I'm not worried about that right now. I don't want to talk about that. Okay, no problem, right? Like, I get it. And then what I'm putting in my notes is, there's something over there, right?
Right.
The more they're resistant to talking about an area, the more it tells me. It's like talking to when our boys were in their teenage years, the more they resisted wanting to tell me about something, the more I knew there was something there I wanted to know, right? And so then it just means a note in my notes, hey, circle back to that at some point. Once
Right.
I haven't built the trust yet that they want to share it with me. Okay, that's okay, right?
Good point.
But now you got a pointer that you got something to go back to when you're ready, right? And
Right.
sometimes they just want you to solve what they brought you in to solve. They don't want you to talk about anything else.
But that's their choice at that point. You're not directing the conversation there. You're allowing them to
That's it.
to address the need that is there. That they
That's
Actually,
it.
that's not entirely true. So this is a great conversation. This is exactly what needs to happen right now. But to your point about they control the conversation, the person who's asking the questions is the one who's controlling the conversation, not the person giving the answers. So this isn't even about control, but I think that what you're hearing here, Stephen, and this is for everybody, is that the key is to build a relationship. Nobody's going to engage you as a growth driver if they don't have a trusting relationship with you. People relationships form with people who are interested in you. Think about that. Are you interested in having a relationship with somebody who's not interested in you? Doesn't happen. The best way to be interested in someone is to ask questions about them, that you're exhibiting it and you're learning things that are interesting all at the same time. And there's one of the oldest sayings in sales training is
Yep.
that telling ain't selling. Telling ain't selling. And so if you're in there telling people what you do, I'm a wealth advisor, I'm an exit planner, I'm a CPA, I'm a CFO, I'm a whatever. If it's in response to a question that they ask, that's one thing. But you want to be asking questions and be curious about them. That's what helps that to grow. And to Eric and Larry's point, it reveals what's important to them. And that's what's all over this worksheet from George. It's you being genuinely curious, finding out what's important to them. And then that either at the very least gives you an opportunity to get to understand them better. And even, the next step would be to know somebody that they might want to talk with. Better yet,
No,
if they'd be interested in exploring something with you.
couldn't agree more, Tim. Famously, though, Steve Jobs said, the customer doesn't know what they want until we tell them what they want, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously, I didn't get that quote verbatim, right? So there is a balance here.
Mhm.
The customer doesn't want to hear about your shiny tools that you have in your toolbox. They are uninterested in that 99% of the time, unless they're so far down the buying process that they're just trying to pick out whose shiny tools they're going to use, right? If they're at that point, they're just picking between you and your direct competitors and saying, I want you instead of that person. But I would argue if you've gotten to that point, you've lost a little bit because you're not controlling the buying so that they understand your true value. They're just picking between two in their mind, two equal resources. I just like your tools better, right? What you want to do is start understanding what those symptoms are that they're raising and start showing them by drilling into them that you're more interested in going and building that relationship to help them get better. You're actually the doctor who wants them to get better, not just the doctor who wants to get a billing incident in so that they can build their billing for the month, right?
Absolutely.
And so by showing them that you care about them and drill in, and you got to be sincere about it, you're actually helping them. That in turn, to Tim's point, is building the relationship with them and the trust that's going to allow you to do more, right? They're not going to allow, you're not going to walk in and in the first 30 seconds, somebody's going to say, I want to hire you to do my estate plan, my exit plan and my estate plan, because that's really trusting work. We almost always get introduced either by somebody they trust immensely, who is then giving their trust to us, and we're getting in because of the trust relationship they already have, or we're building trust by doing small things that build up to a bigger thing, and then they go, now you said something when we first met about doing this exit plan over here or this growth plan over here. can we go back and revisit that? And that comes up 6 or 12 months in, or whenever that is, that they're ready to have that level of trust with us. Because you're really a truly trusted advisor who's giving them broad advice. That's a lot to ask from a client on a first visit.
Yeah, it is, Eric. That's a good point. And that's why the conversation in itself builds not only understanding what their needs are for us, but it builds that credibility and trust and earns you
Yeah.
the right to at some point say, what I just put in chat, I hear what you're saying. I've listened carefully. Here are a couple of recommendations based on your needs. Let's explore them and why I'm making those recommendations.
Right.
You can't start with that. You have to have the conversation. And,
Yeah.
and
Right, you have to
learn
have heard
that,
something first.
yes, and learn. Exactly.
Yeah.
Tim, what were
Yeah.
you holding up before?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was,
that was George's worksheet. The conversation.
Oh, got you.
George's starter conversation.
I was trying to get to that, but when I clicked that link, Larry, I got to a page that says it was what did I say? It said something about
Private space.
the private space.
Yeah.
And I need to be invited
I
to
don't know
it.
why.
You
I
paid your
guess what
dues?
he has
You been
is,
paying your dues?
Yeah, I've been paying my dues. I just enrolled in the CD3 program. Maybe that's why.
maybe. I don't know what level of access people have or don't, but I am able to open those up, and it does not have, I'm wrong. It has some good stuff, but it does not have what you're referring to, Michael, the growth conversation script.
Mhm.
That's in a binder from previous
Yeah,
CD3D courses.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have it.
I can't find it online right now.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
And Stephen, that's what you want. George is on vacation this week, but that's what you want George to share with you as
Okay.
if you're a member. and
Ask
you're paying
Catherine.
dues.
Catherine
That
should be
is
there.
what- Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, I'm
Should
gonna
ask
reach out to her.
Catherine.
Maybe she can send me a copy of that sheet.
Catherine,
Mike,
yes.
Mike, the title on this document, I'm looking at it in Circle right now, is if you searched for this, maybe it's called One Page Strategy Planner Rev 2.
Okay.
And there's no space between Rev and 2, and just see if that calls it up for
Yeah.
you.
I would encourage you guys, the more you can get comfortable just having the conversation and the less you're relying on, and I get, I did a lot of reading early on of other people's scripts and other people's ways of approaching it. But ultimately, people won't take you the same way until you can comfortably have, like, you got to be able to walk on the wire without the net beneath you to a degree, right? The net might be not a script or again, maybe you got a sheet of paper that you're walking through to make sure you capture everything. Everybody has a different way of capturing the information. And again, we all have different skill sets in different things, right? I just am able to absorb that information and arrange it and know where it all goes. Some
You have that
people need-
experience, Eric.
Yeah, so some of it's experience and some of it's natural gifting, right? But my point is, we each have to use different tools to get there. But the more you can make that a conversation and not a reading a bunch of questions, the more you're going to come off as competent and believable to the client, and they're going to understand that you know what you're talking about, right? And that comes through experience. And I would say, back to your question, Stephen, one way you start it is just start getting introduced to people and having those discussions, right? Another thing you can do that really supports you is find a few people that are credible in this space. Tim and I had a conversation a while ago, and I said to Tim, you want to go into this? I know you well enough now, call me. When you get stuck on something, call me and I got your back, right? Our firm does the whole spectrum of this area. So if you're comfortable doing this part and you get out of the bounds of what you're comfortable, call me and we'll help you get through the rest of it, right? Find somebody in this community or another community you're involved with that can gives you enough credibility and enough confidence that you got somebody backing you up. It's a great way to go, because now you got the confidence to know, oh, if I don't know what's going on, I'll pick up the phone and call Larry and say, hey Larry, I asked the client or the prospect this, they answered this, I'm not sure what to do with that.
So Eric, let me share with you one of the challenges I have. I'm a CPA, right? But mostly a tax person. I'm known in this area. People know me as being a tax person, right? Being a tax partner for years. So oftentimes I get referred in because someone has a tax problem, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And it relates to exit though. They want to figure out how they're going to get out, and they bring me in for my tax view, not so much for other aspects of the planning, but they know that I know enough about tax law that I could kind of advise them on that. So what I struggle with is, okay, I get introduced, I start working with them, and how do I guess my challenge is, how do I rebrand myself? I guess that's the word. How do I rebrand myself as someone who's more than just a tax person? I mean, in other words, how do I say to them, look, I can help you with this problem. No doubt. I've done it for over 40 years. I can figure it out. Trust me. But, I can start asking them the questions that we've been talking about about their business and stuff like that. And then how do I get them to say, how do I get them to believe that I can help them not only with this tax issue, but also with the overall issue of, growth and exit. So because you were a CPA CFO, and you kind of alluded to it. So how did you make that transition? How did you get them to look at you differently or more expansively? I guess that's the phrase.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've done it perfectly, to be completely candid. At 16 years in, I still get a lot of bankers calling me saying, I've won 2 clients in the last 12 months, in the last 6 months, that have come to me because they haven't closed their books in 12 to 18 months, right? I still get clients because of what my background is, right? So, and that's not bad. That's a good thing, because now what I do is I look at those opportunities and I say, if all you want me to do is take the shoebox and make it into financial statements, that's not who I am. I don't want to do that work. I'll dish that off to somebody else. But if you bring me a client who needs that, but they also need the further growth stuff that I do want to do, I'm happy to do this stuff over here to go into, to open up the opportunity to do that other work with them, right? Mm-hmm. So I use that as a tool to get in, and it opens the doors. People only want to introduce experts. They don't want to introduce people are too general, right? They want to feel like they're introducing their client to somebody who has deep expertise in an area. So having deep expertise, I think, is a strength. So to answer your question directly, Mike, what I did was a couple of things. Early on, I alluded to this also. I actually went out because I wanted to be holistic in how we went to market, and I brought people onto the team who were in these other areas. So I have a deep marketing expert, a deep sales expert, a deep operations expert. And then now I could say, even if you don't believe Eric knows stuff about those, and we're a functional excellence team, if there's a deep sales question, Eric's not answering it anyway. I'm bringing in, our sales expert to do that, right? And so I built a team that had all the functional experts so that we could go to market holistically. Secondly, we did a lot of marketing effort. We wrote blogs, and we did stuff on a lot of different topics so that people could see that we were thought leaders, not just in our area. And then thirdly, we started speaking, and this, Mike, I speak at the EPI National Conference. Now I'm involved here at Growth Drive, on my side, not publicly, but I just did a lot of reading. I mean, I had a lot of knowledge in other areas because of my 20 years in corporate America and working in businesses, but I also did a lot of tactical reading in specific areas so that I could talk intelligently on them and start accumulating knowledge in the areas that I didn't have enough knowledge. But I'd say the key component of it is exactly where I started this line. I'm not trying to be the expert. I live to our functional excellence model. I'm not trying to be the expert or give advice in sales. I'm after 16 years, I'm really good at selling, but I don't believe I should be giving people advice on selling. I'm not trained in selling. I've just learned it by the seat of my pants.
So I'm trying, I got you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to coordinate, but I'm trying to, I'm trying to integrate what you just said. Excuse me. But, I'm trying to now go back to the growth drive process, right? Where George has built execution guidance in his model, right? So if you have weaknesses in, let's go with sales, because you mentioned sales. I mean, he's got a whole execution model or execution guidance model where, this is the things you could do. So isn't there situations where you don't need to bring in the deep expert, where you could work with the client and their internal team to work on their sales issues? You don't necessarily have to rush to bring in the deep expert, unless of course they say, look, we can't handle this. We need help. And then that deep expert becomes part of the plan. Is that the right view?
And so here's my philosophy on that, Mike. I'm not certain it's perfect, but it's actually worked really, really well for 16 years. Most problems aren't deep technical problems. Most problems are people problems.
Yeah, for sure.
I can solve lots of people problems because I have really broad people skills in terms of doing that for now 35 years in my career. I've been solving people problems for a really long time, right? Actually, right before this meeting, I spent an hour having coffee with a professor of sociology and psychology, and we were just talking about sociology and psychology, right? And so that's an area of interest for me, and I've spent a lot of time learning and reading and using those skills. And so when it comes to technical issues, I defer to technical experts. If it's a technical sales issue, I want a technical sales expert in it. And I think business owners like me feel the same way. They want to know that the person who's helping them, it didn't just read the book on heart surgery yesterday. They've actually done 200 or 5,000 of them or whatever it is, right? But when it comes to people issues, people don't understand that as well. And often if you can show them, if you can pull the issue apart and show them, here are the technical aspects of this issue, here's the people aspects, and this is what we're going to be working on, that changes their opinion of it. And so I think a lot of times we're confusing. We throw the whole thing into one bucket of that's a sales issue, but it's really there's this little bit of it that's a technical sales issue, and most of it is a people issue. You've got the wrong person in the
Eric, you're right. It's always people issues first, regardless of, is it the leadership team structure, function, role? Is it the sales process? Wherever path you go down, there are people who have to plan and execute that work, and that's where the folly happens, and that's where a lot of our work has to happen.
Are they following your strategy? Are they following your values? Are they leading people well? What are their communication skills, right? So we do, as consultants in general, I believe we do a really poor job of pulling apart the technical issues from the people issues and identifying them as that. And when you can identify them, Mike, to direct answer your question, you can show them that you've got the skills to do that really quickly by just pulling them apart and showing them that this is this is the technical and this is the people issue, right there will show them that you're doing stuff that 90% of people plus don't do.
So it's coming up on 10:30.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing a lot of experience and wisdom. My summary of today's conversation is that we each walk into a growth conversation with a particular expertise, background, comfort zone.
Yeah.
And we have to hold the growth conversation for two paths. One, to build credibility and trust, and two, to pinpoint where there's a need for the potential client, and then to assess from that our role in that.
Yeah.
And then we could go down those paths. But each of us bring that expertise into it. And then it's a matter. And so in my case, and I hear you, Stephen, and in where you're going, it is triaging is a methodology. Growth conversation is a methodology. We got to get good at it. I never show up without 3 questions that I don't want to, that I write on the top of a piece of paper, very small, is a memory jogger for me. What are the 3? And, you know, it might change depending on the situation. And one of them is usually, I'd love to hear more about your journey that got you here. People, now, unless they only have 5 minutes, which is not, they want to talk about their journey. And I think that's an important listen. And then we go down the paths based upon that story. Anyway, I know we've gone over here. Michael, did that answer your question, or are you still thinking? Teresa, have a great day.
Yeah, I got it. No, I did answer my question. Thank you.
Well, in a couple of minutes, can we just go around? Larry, you shared your summary. You know, what's a takeaway from this? Tim, what's a takeaway for you from this conversation?
I've loved the whole conversation. It's just it's like baiting. It's a refresher on how to go about approaching opportunities, or even revealing if something's there, and not coming in with something to sell with a signboard hanging over our shoulders, but instead just to be curious about people and build a relationship out of curiosity, find out what they're interested in. And I mean, that's the name of the game, helping get people get what they want or need, whether it's us or somebody else. So very casual way to go about building trust, and at the same time revealing those opportunities. So I appreciate the whole spectrum. So
awesome. Mike, what'd you get?
Same thing. This reminded me not to show up, as we used to say, don't show up and throw up.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want to get the engagement. So you try to go out there and try to impress people with your knowledge and who you are and what you do. It shouldn't be, the conversation should be more of, I should be talking a lot less than the other party. So again, it just reinforces that idea and that concept for me, so that it's always good to get that kind of reinforcement and that kind of perspective. So I'll pass it on to Stephen.
It's the golf swing philosophy, though, right? The harder we swing, it's counterintuitive, right?
Right. That's what my golf coach tells me. He goes, if you're swinging the club with your arms, you're doing it totally wrong.
Yeah, right. But it's what we all want to do naturally, yeah.
Because
Steven.
your brain says you have the club in your arms and your hands, so you. Yeah. But anyway, yes. Well, that's in that regard. It's been very useful. So I'll pass it on to Stephen.
So I'm taking away, a lot of the same things. Not necessarily saying that I would show up and throw up, but we come in, like you said, with our specialties, and the types of questions that we will ask could be very different depending on if you're focused on like you said, the pre-script of things that you're really good at, those comfort zones, or if you broaden it into more curiosity-driven inquiries. And I could even see, working with someone that would be doing that for something that I needed would be a lot better than if I were to, say, walk into a shop and I know exactly what I need and I'm just picking something off the shelf. I would much rather have them be interested in me. And that's that kind of interest that we need to bring to our client conversations.
Sure. After I asked the question, what are we here for? Like, what's the problem of the day? the second question I often ask is, tell me about your business and how you make money.
I
Because
love
if
that.
they can tell me the mechanics of their business and what goes on, I'll often hear something in that conversation that'll trigger me to go, you don't know what the costs of each of your products are. You make money because you think you sell more of this, but you don't even know if that makes more money or not. Right? Like just stuff comes out in the wash, right?
And that creates that conversation, which is
That
exactly
is,
what I was
right.
asking for before, was how do you create that conversation? So
I
that's an
gotta
excellent
run.
takeaway.
Yep.
I gotta go.
See you,
Great,
Larry.
thanks.
Great
Thanks a lot,
conversation,
everyone.
guys. Yeah.
Very
Good
good.
day.
Michael, I've got an idea for you if you want to stay on.
Yeah, I'll say.
About your, yep, okay.
See you guys.
Thank you, guys. So to the question you were asking, or you were talking about, you're known as a tax guy, right?
Yeah,
Which I get
I
that,
am. I can't shake that moniker.
that's your method actor. You may already be doing this, but the thought that came to my mind was that you want to tell your story. And your story could be, and I'm making this up, that over the 30, 40 years that you've been advising people on taxes, whether they were exiting or just working to run their business better or struggling to stay in business, one of the things that you noticed was that not one business sold for more than what the owner wanted, right? Or I didn't see a single business that sold beyond the owner's expectations. I'm making that up right now. And so you've decided to make your focus helping businesses to be more valuable so that these people can receive the reward for their life's hard work. So yeah, yes, while I came from a tax background, it gave me a deep understanding of what it takes to run a business and grow a business that's worth at least what the owner has in mind or what they want or need. And some kind of story like that would be at or near the top of your website, maybe on the top of your about page. And then you can abbreviate that in a conversation. Say, I spent so many years looking at the financial health of companies and helping them to be more healthy. What I realized, or my interest shifted from just helping show what they were worth to helping them be worth more. And that's a logical, to me, that seems very, very credible. If I look at somebody that's got that background, that whole career, now you're taking it to the next level. It's like you've done this all these years. Now you're going to mentor businesses to make sure that they maximize their value. So I don't know, that crossed my mind.
No,
I didn't want to.
listen, Tim, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I do tell, I do have two things I say about myself that kind of helps in the transition from me being a tax CPA to a growth advisor, right? Yeah, I have the credentials, but I tell them two things. I say, number one, I tell them the story of that client. And I don't know if I told you this, like 15 years ago, that came to me and was just, he went to a number of advisors and he couldn't get anyone to help him figure out how he was going to get out of his company for the amount of money he needed. And he turned to me, his CPA, right? His tax CPA. And I took that on as a challenge, and it got me into this whole field of exit planning. And I successfully helped him get out of his company for the amount of money he needed with a minimal amount of tax, because I leveraged my tax background. So I bring my tax knowledge to the table, along with, helping people exit. And I tell that story. And the other one I tell them is that I was a managing partner of my CPA firm, I don't know, 25 years ago. And so I helped engineer with my other partners a sale of our company to a bigger player. So I've been through this exiting process personally. All right. So I kind of tell them I was a business owner, right? And I went through this myself. And I know, what you need to be, what sells, and what you need to kind of have in place in order to get and attract the most value. So I tell them those stories. So I wasn't a guy that sat behind, a desk and just put my green visor on and just kept my head down, and just filled out returns, because I didn't prepare tax returns for the longest time. I didn't do them for the last 20 years. I never did returns. I was always out there talking to my clients about let's figure out, taxes are a big part of your budget. It can take 30-40% of your profits away from you. So let's talk about how
Tax strategies, right?
So I talked about strategy and how to minimize. But but you're right. I mean, in the process of dealing with all these business owners and having them and being involved with their eventual sales, I was sitting courtside, if you will,
Yes.
for that game, and I saw what hurt them, and you're right. I mean, a lot of them, they started off with a great LOI number, right? The buyer came in and said, "Yeah, we'll pay you X," and I can tell you, almost invariably, when it came time to the closing the sale, whatever they closed for was not even close, but it was a far cry from what they originally offered. And the reason for that decline in value was because when the buyer came in and due diligence, they found a number of issues. And that's what I do now with you, right? My goal in this whole process is to kind of do a buyer's due diligence run on your company so that you understand, and so you could start fixing these things. Because if you don't, you're going to be disappointed, like a lot of the clients I saw were disappointed. But the problem they had was they were so far into the process and they had so much invested in the process with, emotionally, financially, that they had to suck it up and close. Oftentimes they just said, "Oh, well, okay, well, they kind of resigned themselves to closing." And so, but they were not as happy as they would have been.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it just seemed to me like it's a great transition, and that's a great story to tell. That this is what I saw in all my years of working with businesses on tax strategies. That no one's, I'm making that part up, but no one sold for more than they thought. No one got more out of their company than they thought they deserved. And it's shifted. My focus has evolved to helping companies to do exactly that or something. It gives you a virtuous reason, a virtuous mission for wanting to do what you do with a very, very credible perspective in history. So I think that's good.
Tim, I do. Thank you so
All right.
much. I appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
input.
And thanks for sharing
Anytime I
that.
can help you, anytime I can help you in whatever you do, if you need any tax advice or anything like that,
Well, I
reach
wouldn't mind
out.
picking your brain. Have you got a minute? I got a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So I am in the process of launching a growth advisory firm. So instead of just being the solopreneur that I've been for the last 10 years, I've had my own company. It's a sub-S company, roadie management company, for over 30 years now, and actually 35, more than 35. And I'm, rather than creating a new company, the new entity is called Clear Growth Advisors. But rather than going out and starting a new LLC or an LLP I just reserved the trade name. So it's going to be Roadie Management Company trading as Clear Growth Advisors, at least initially, right? I've got a few people that I call it Clear Growth Advisors because I want to create a team. I don't want to just be doing it myself. Initially, my thought was it would be me. Clear Growth Advisors would be me. If I needed a tax strategist, I'd call Mike. If I needed referral help, I call Mike Garrison, and those are my other advisors, right? That's what the whole Growth Drive thing is set up for. I think I even triggered a conversation about using the subcontractor model a few calls ago when we were talking about it. So I'm still very fond of that. Having said that, there's a couple of local, what I would call independent business advisors, very credible people who have grown nine-figure companies that are interested in what I'm doing and interested in aligning with me, and let's just say for becoming partners. And so I don't know them well enough yet for me to be comfortable starting a partnership with them, and I don't feel like leaping in and starting a new business entity and then maybe I bring them in or not with all the buy sell stuff and the thousands of dollars in legal advice and stuff. So here's what I'm thinking, and I'm getting to my question. So if they're comfortable with it, we all operate under this, trading as Clear Growth Advisors. They are principals, would be on their business card or whatever. They're a principal. And as far as the revenue sharing, if they're comfortable with it, being a principal in a virtual entity that's operating as a trade name under somebody else's sub S, we would just come up with an agreement or a contract between us, like we're contractors, right? And this is how we split the loot, right? This is when money comes in, we put 30% in for profit, overhead, and affiliate commissions, and then the other 70% gets divvied up to whoever brought the thing in, who's ever delivering it, or some combination or something like that. And I'm just kind of curious if you, that's about as far as I've thought it through. We've got another meeting on Friday, and I'll be floating that concept to them just to keep it light for now. If in 6 months' time this is a virtuous cycle and we're hitting, the cover off the ball, and we want to create an LLC or something like that, we certainly can, and transition the name and everything else to the new entity. But do you see any holes in that, or how would you go about, I guess, coming to an agreement with people about something like that?
Okay, so I think what I hear you saying is that you want to kind of want to do a revenue share agreement, right?
Yes.
With your existing company. So you don't want to form a new entity. You just want to promote. Everyone promotes your DBA name, right? And
By the way, both of these guys have committed to come to the summit, and so
super.
I believe that they are on either on the verge of or already inclined to become growth drivers.
Good. So yeah, so you're basically just outlining a revenue share agreement, a rev share agreement, which is under your current company without forming a new entity. The only thing that kind of caught my attention that I think you need, and it's not even tax advice, it may be legal advice, is if they're going out there representing themselves as principals of this company name, I don't know if that brings upon you more legal liability.
Okay.
Let's assume they do something wrong, right? Or whatever. And someone gets I guess they have business cards. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if they're representing themselves as principals, that could have some legal implications if, for instance, they do something that is questionable, not criminally, but just thinking something that someone says, "Oh, you told me that I'm going to sue. You're a principal of this company. I'm going to sue this company because you're a principal of it, and that's what you're representing. That's what you're representing yourself to be." So that's a legal question. I kind of stay away from that. I tell them that, don't just say that there may be, they can represent them as being a partner with or partnering with, but you need to talk to a lawyer about that.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't have to do that. That was just a thought that came to my mind. That was something short of a corporate title, so they weren't a vice president or a partner or anything like that.
I just worry a little bit about that. Now, the rev share thing is fine if you all agree that you're going to share revenues, but then you're creating an additional accounting mess, right? I don't know if it's a mess, but you're going to have to keep track of the revenues and expenses and come up with a profit share agreement.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to come up with some type of a formula to distribute these,
which I think is easy enough that's easy enough to formulate. And then they for a title, they could just be a business growth advisor, just like everybody else is, and just keep it as that for right now.
I would do that. And then let's assume that it works out really great, right? And wow, let's now they want to formalize something a little more solid than just a rev share agreement. Well, then you're an S corp, right? So it's there's a couple of ways you can bring them into your S corp, right? You could issue them an interest, so they have to buy into your S corporation, right? So you'd have to come up with a value for that, and then you have to buy shares from either you or the S corp. Or the other thing I have done with companies that want to bring in new people but don't want to create, having without having them have to pay for it, right? And without creating a tax problem for them. Because let's go back. Let's assume you say, look, I'm going to give you 10 shares of my S corp because you did a great job, or that's going to cause them some tax issue. That's going to be compensation. They're going to have to pick it up as income. Or if you sell it to them, they're going to have to come up with money and put money in the company. The other way of getting them in without all that complication is you create underneath your S corporation an LLC. That's 100% owned by the S corp, but it's an LLC, not an S corp, not a corp. And then you can issue to them profits interests in the LLC, which is not taxable to them upon issuance. So you could give them, your S corp could have the controlling membership interest in this LLC, and you can issue them either voting or non-voting interests in the LLC, profits interest, meaning that they only share in future profits. And the issuance of those interests are not taxable to them. So they have a whatever percent you want to give them, fine, they're in, they get 10% in my example. And you go forward and you have a partnership underneath the S corporation. And if you want, the S corporation can own the majority of the voting interest, so it controls everything, but they're getting a profit share, and they own a piece of that LLC. And then that becomes a separate taxable reporting entity. It has its own books and records. And that's if you want to get a little more formalized and give them some type of equity interest in that entity. But that may be the second step, not the first step. The first step is to do I think what you're doing is the rev share. Let's see how this works out. If it works out well, then we could formalize it.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for staying on. I appreciate the insight.
I appreciate
very helpful. All right, Michael. And
Tim?
thanks again for doing that sales pitch that you did last week with Donald Miller's thing, that research. That was very helpful.
The sales.
You went to Donald Miller's elevator pitch, and you did his.
Did I do that? I don't remember doing
Yeah,
Does that mean?
yeah. After we got off of our call, and then you sent it back to us. So.
Oh yes, my bad. Yeah, I used I used the growth. What did I use? I used AI to do that.
Right.
Yeah. I said, let me take all the stuff that I have, like in some of my materials, and I dumped it in there. And I say, could you write an elevator pitch for me?
Yes, exactly. It
Yeah,
was very helpful. It was good. It was very insightful. So.
All right, Sam.
All right, Michael.
Take care,
Thank
buddy.
you very much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
This episode is brought to you by the Growth Drive Summit. Our theme this year is building a profitable advisory business. Join us in Charleston, South Carolina, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. Expand your network, learn new skills, and generally have a good time. This is a top-rated event. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you.